Hi everybody, thank you for joining us this wonderful, is it Wednesday evening? This is BLEND003, the fight for UK grassroots venues closing time. We're going to have an honest and urgent conversation about one of the biggest cultural crises happening in the UK right now, the closure of grassroots venues. So just some statistics, because I'm like dead professional on that. According to the Music Venue Trust, 125 venues closed or stopped hosting live music in 2023, around 16% of the entire sector. In 2024, things didn't ease. 46 more grassroots venues shut their doors, and another 40 stopped programming live music entirely. So now we have over 350 venues listed as immediately at risk. I'm sure that figure has gone up, meaning almost 40% of the UK grassroots network is endangered. 40% of grassroots venues operate at a loss, around 43.8% based on national surveys. The average profit margin across the sector is just 0.48%. That means a single bad week can be fatal. And to understand the cultural stakes, 88 of the 96 artists on the 2024 Glastonbury lineup started in grassroots venues. So these spaces aren't optional, they're foundational. So with that in mind, let's introduce our panelist. So we'll go here downwards. Just introduce yourself, say a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm Rikina Sandrin. I'm a DJ and a promoter. I'm also one of them bad venues that closed down. I'm a former director of Old Red Bus Station in Leeds. I also run Dancemore events and License to Jungle.
Hello, my name is James Hutchins, and I am one of the founders and directors of Ambers in Manchester. Previously in London, I've worked through magazines in the editorial world across the music space, and resident at Fabric in London and on Rinse FM.
Hello, my name is Wakil. I am the director of Stage and Radio, which is where you are now. And I run a party with my friend Connor Cooper here called Left, Right and Centre, and we've been promoting for about 8 years as well. And I've come from working behind the bar at clubs to now. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm Rebecca Elizabeth Shaw. I am a freelance promoter and marketer. I mainly work with the White Hotel, but I also work on my own projects. Formerly Tough Act, now New World. I have another few things that I have been working on. I started in sort of London as well, and then moved my way up here about 8 years ago.
Hi, I'm Kira. I'm one of the founders of Feel Good Club. Feel Good Club is an online community trying to normalise the conversation around mental health and feelings in general. We opened our venue just over the road in 2020, so just as COVID hit, and we closed in September, so quite fitting to have this conversation.
Yeah, and I'm Tyron. Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Tyron. I'm hosting, obviously. So to start, I want to understand the pressures that venues are under, and we're lucky to have people that have started from behind the bar, played the venues, ran the venues. So let's start. Wakil, let's begin with you. What are the biggest threats facing stage and radio right now, whether financial, regulatory, cultural, and what does day-to-day fragility look like for a place like stage and radio?
Let's start with financial, because that's the obvious elephant in the room, I think. Margins, you spoke about them, that's pretty accurate. Especially in our situation where we've come from financing the place out of our own pockets, as a bunch of 20-year-olds, well, in our 20s. And that means that there's repayments, there's big repayments, and for that to happen, that margin is even tighter. So it just relies on everything going exactly how it is planned. And that creates an element of huge anxiety every single day, but it's just something you've got to get on with. It's been ticking away. I'd say the next biggest issue is development. The city's growing, and as the city grows, it means that spaces like this that exist in the city centre are facing new challenges because they often exist in buildings where we're not allowed to make changes to the buildings. And I think that's something that really needs to be dealt with as soon as possible with an actual action plan.
Yeah. I think Kira, it'd be good for you to tap in there as well and just have touch on that question as well with Feel Good Club and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge was financial. I mean, I don't know if anyone's been to Feel Good Club, but it's a huge space, 3,000 square foot and a bit more. And I think that, you know, we started the venue and we had this like big dream to change the way that hospitality ran. We were like, we want to make sure that people are looked after. We want to pay them like good money. And it's the hardest fucking thing I've ever done in my entire life. Hospitality is the hardest job, or one of the hardest jobs out there. And it feels like kind of like criminal that the venues just can't run through like support from the government or whatever it might be, to actually repay the teams what they're actually like genuinely repay for the amount of hard work that goes into running venues. And yeah, I think, you know, we opened in COVID, which was already a bit of a shit show anyway. We opened the doors and then 2 weeks later we had to close. But things kind of, in that time, you know, we had like a year's rent free, so it was kind of like everything's going all right. And the VAT was 5%, and that really helped. So we kind of got through it and we were like, yeah, we're smashing it. But then reality hits where all of the electricity goes up, the rates go up, everything kind of goes back to normal. Cost of living goes up and people can't go out as much. And I think one of the main comments that I had from all of my mates, from family, friends, when we closed was, but you're always busy. And we were, but that is just not reflected in, how much it actually costs to run a venue. And it got to the point where I looked at the menu and was like, to make this work, I'm going to have to be charging like 25 quid for a breakfast. And we've got great chefs, but you can't charge 25 quid for a breakfast.
Yeah, I was so sad to see Feel Good Club go. It was such a great spot. Like it was that, like it worked really well. I'll touch on it later on in the panel, but the community aspect and like the community there and like the events that you held and stuff like that were really good. But we touch on that a bit more, so I won't go too far ahead. Hutch, it's for you. So you co-founded Amber's, a venue that quickly has become one of Manchester's like most respected grassroots spaces. I think there's such a buzz around it. What challenges did you face building Amber's, and does the national crisis we're seeing now match what you've encountered personally?
Yeah, I think it's definitely matching up. I mean, when we started, we had no idea kind of what we were doing. I mean, I've been playing in clubs and I've been around clubs for a long, long time. When I booked DJs and worked, so I've been on both sides. But none of us really knew what we were doing, and it's a harsh reality that we've discovered, especially sort of over the summer when I'm sort of still booking things with the budgets of, September to, Q4, Q1. I'm still booking and things with those budgets, and then summer comes around and it drops off the face of the earth, and we just, shut ourselves basically, which led to a lot of the directors having to personally bail us out, cover costs, when we had to pick and choose our weekends when we were going to open, and it was a harsh, very steep learning curve. But yeah, it was super, super tricky for us to figuring things out as we go along, and we are still constantly learning. But I think there's been a crazy statistic in the rising utilities. It's been like 37.5% they've gone up. I'm not sure when that was from, maybe 2023 or something. But that rent and utilities is such an alarming cost, as well as trying to keep, the big team of staff that we've got paid well, and just keeping things going. Really, it's been quite tricky.
Yeah, Rebecca, what about you from a club perspective, the behind the scenes kind of? Have you noticed?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of came up through just putting things on in other people's venues, so that side of things wasn't as clear to me, right? I think it seems like when you just run your own events at other people's places and you build that community up, that this is so simple, this is so easy. And then being on that other side is it's completely different. There's not just the costs of getting everything in there, there's also thinking of just the knock-on costs, like paying staff and things like that. How do you balance that when these costs drop off, when the costs rise, and also then people's money drops off. And for us this year, we saw kind of a bit of a different thing where in this sort of period that usually has the students and that, there's been a bit of a drop off. I think people aren't wanting to go out as much, whereas in the summer we did see some more activity than we've seen in previous years. But I think that was just people not going to festivals, because now that's so expensive, right? It's like £200-300 for a weekend, and that's just the ticket. So then it seems to be changing, and that's the hardest part, because each year you look over what you've done and you think this worked and that worked, and then the next year you can't plan for that. Like when I first started there, it followed a trend a bit, it changed between the months, but this is the good time. Summer is the more difficult time. But this year has been completely different. So how do you even plan for that? How do we plan for the next year? Like, is it going to follow that trend? And then a bunch of forces out of your hand, right? Like budgets and like the national budget, as it were. And
got released today, didn't it?
Yeah,
Ooh,
right.
Rachel Reeves.
It's not good.
So Rix, you've been part of this world for over 25 years. So what feels different about the crisis we're in now?
Well, it's real shit. How can I swear? Okay. Look, everything what everybody said, I've got nothing to say. I remember in 2022, my accountant going to me, it's all going to go to shit, it's not going to get better. So if we are talking about hospitality, it depends what kind of hospitality we're talking about. We're talking about grassroots hospitality. Grassroots hospitality, food, blah, 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 it's not profitable. It wasn't profitable since from before pandemic, after pandemic. It's not going to be profitable for another 5, 7, 10 years, and that's if we are lucky. So I'm really angry, clearly. This is, it's not new. I don't know why it's all put on us, and why is it all put on a consumer. This is far more multifaceted than us going, I can't recognize, or whatever, people are not going out. Nobody has the money. We are all really squeezed. However, one thing what is really important, what we, I guess, represent, it is the culture of this country, and this comes from much, much more above. So yes, we should have been protected far more. There should be, particularly after tonight, when Miss Rachel Reeves didn't even mention culture in one sentence in a budget. So yeah, that's where we are at.
And you know what? You've actually segued into the next section of the... No, that's saved me a job. So yeah, we're going to talk about what's really at stake, not just for nightlife, but more from the culture, creativity, and also community. Yeah. So yeah, grassroots venues do more than just host nights, like the cultural spots. Do you know what I mean? Where like culture is made. It's where everyone's like allowed to be free in themselves. So Hutch, you've played everywhere from Tiny Basements and Ambers to Fabric and Ministry of Sound. What do grassroots venues offer that big room simply can't? And has running Ambers changed how you value those smaller spaces?
I mean, the small rooms is where everything starts, right? They're the most important. I feel like these spaces that we're talking about, that we've all been a part of, they are the most important. It's where everyone starts. It's where you first start going out as a raver, and you first discovering, what you like, it's discovering your sound. What is that sound? Then you dig deeper, and then you meet friends, and then you journey. People's lives, people's like lifelong friends are made in the rave. In these small spaces. So, like in that sense, they're so important. And from the side of like the growth of the music community, that is where artists start and grow. Like you said, in the Glastonbury lineup, they were all can't remember the stat, but they were all started in grassroots music venues, and and even this place itself has got such an amazing history of starting off loads of artists' careers. So like those places are, I think, arguably they're the most important for sure.
Rix, at the old Red Bus Station, he was involved in artist development and residency programs. What happens to those pipelines when grassroots venues disappear?
There is none. In Leeds right now, there is none. And Leeds is a massive city, with kind of transient youth population. It's really upsetting that actually people in power don't actually realize how important this is, and not for right now. I mean, for right now it's really important, but in 10 years time, what is going to happen in 10 years time? I mean, it's broken from 1919. Okay, so, and we are already behind. So yeah, I say I'm old. I take my hat off to young people of today. I really do, and I really mean it. It's really serious. This is not just, oh, it's going to, it's serious.
I think, Rebecca, you could probably touch in on that, and Wakil maybe, like when you're booking, up and coming artists and stuff, obviously like fees and, overhead costs and stuff like that. How do you balance that all?
Could you repeat that? Sorry.
So I kind of just made it up on the spot, to be fair. But like when you're booking artists and DJs and stuff like that, like obviously you've got to take into consideration, do you kind of like balance, obviously how you're going to balance the books, but then also give this person like an opportunity, and how do you manage that? Like, does that take precedent when you're booking?
So the fact that, let's say on a show, revenue is going to be a lot lower than what it used to be because of spending power, it kind of means that a level of taking risk goes down on a lineup. And then that might mean that you don't decide to book an artist from outside of the city, which then means that the talent that's coming to the city becomes localized, which is good and bad. I don't know where I stand on that, but it does mean that essentially like the whole thing is like bottlenecked. Yeah, it's just frustrating. It's all just really frustrating.
Can I actually say something? I do. I've been thinking about this on the way to here, and as I say, I mean, I've been in this industry since 90s. When I started, alcohol was not adjacent to music. Why are we now kind of leveling this? Oh, I'm doing well if I have sold this much alcohol. Like, it's nothing to do with music. It's nothing to do with culture. It is really sad that we are even discussing this.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean that is true, and to be like it's really really sad, and that actually has become a factor because ticket prices ticket buying trends are so low, and people are not really spending money on the tickets, which is where you cover your cost of the music. You're paying your artist fees out of the tickets. That's traditionally how we do it. But now it's like, okay, cool, I didn't make that much, I made a loss on the tickets, but the bar did that much money, so we can wash our face in that way. It's like, yeah, it's kind of mad.
Yeah, but I also want to say here, in Europe, it's like 0% VAT on tickets, or 5% like at the top. Yeah. Here in UK, we are billed at 20% on a ticket sales. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. No, carry on, I enjoy it.
Agree.
Can I just add, I think there's a lot of people in the room who might not know the impact of what a 20% VAT is, and it is the difference between being able to hire a full team of staff to do their jobs really, really well, or running a venue and doing 8 jobs at once. So we're talking about tens and tens and tens of thousands of pounds, if not more. Could be in 5 figures, could be in 6 in some larger, massive corporate venue cases. But like, it is the difference between 5 and 20% VAT is insane, and it's the difference between a place existing and not existing.
Yeah, definitely. So Kira, this one's for you. So Feel Good Club, as mentioned before, I think it was it wasn't a nightclub, but it was like more of like a grassroots cultural space. It had such a great community there, such a good vibe. So what did you learn about the importance of community-led third places? I hate calling them third places because it's like, why are we putting like them down at the bottom? But do you know what I mean? And what was lost when your venue closed for Manchester?
I think we created Feel Good Club because I didn't feel growing up that there was something missing, and this is where that like kind of third space comes from. Is that it was a cafe, it was a brunch spot, but it was an event space. It had things happening most nights of the week in there. And I think I wanted to create it because it was something that I wanted. Growing up as a queer person and a visibly queer person, I felt there's a difference between going into a very heteronormative space with your partner and feeling like
you can't be yourself, and then walking into a visibly queer venue that, you know, everyone behind the bar is, and that wasn't intentional, but queer people were just attracted to the venue. We didn't say we can only hire queer people, but that was how it went. And then when you've got queer performers, you have trans performers. I wanted people to walk into that venue and see themselves in it. And we did that, and it was, you know, and this isn't me saying that it, like, bragging, it was a lot of the team's work that went into it. It wasn't even me, it was Bo who programmed our events. I remember walking in there, and it was a space that I just loved to be in. I'd walk in and I didn't even feel like it was my venue. It was just a go in there because I loved what was happening in there. So I think for a lot of people, it was kind of that alternative space to go to where you can walk in and feel comfortable. And I think that's what was lost in it. And, you know, we had hundreds and hundreds of queer and trans performers that would perform on that stage every year. So to have to close it and take that away as well, it's, you know, that's a huge loss for people who are working in the space and getting paid from the space as well. Does that answer it?
Yeah, it does, yeah. No, I was going to say, you do deserve to brag, because honestly, Feel Good Club was, like, I've seen venues close, which have been such a loss, but I think that one hit really hard because, like you say, it was, like, such a wonderful queer space as well, and, like, even, like, everyone just felt so accepted there. And I think, obviously, you've got the Village, but the Village is pretty cooked, do you know what I mean? So it is, like, it is pretty, like, shit down there, which is such a shame because, like, to have that area, like, for the LGBTQ plus community is just amazing, but the venue's just run by idiots, to be honest. I mean, that's just my personal
Do you know, one of my favourite things that happened in that venue, so we used to have a night called Queer as Fuck, Queer Open Mic Night. They're still going, so if you can get to one of the shows, they've been in Red Light and they're doing a Christmas show, but we had that show on, and it was every night, every time it was on, it was absolutely packed. And it was like the height of summer, and this big group of, like, blokes walked in, and they came to the bar, and all the staff were like, oh. So I was always the one that would, like, go on the bar and deal with it. And so I spoke to them, and they were actually lovely. And our beer taps, like, it was so busy that they were, like, foaming over, so we couldn't get a good pint out of it. So I said to them, oh, what are you here to watch the music? And they were like, oh, no, we're on our, like, army reunion. And I thought, fuck. And I just saw everyone in the venue, like, who was watching, all kind of stared at them as they walked in, like, oh, my God. So I said to them, cool, if you want to chat and catch up, I'll sort you a table outside and you can be as loud as you want while the music's on. And after a bit, I went out to see if they were okay, see if they wanted another drink. And one of the guys grabbed me and he was like, what is this space? And I explained it, and he was like, do you know what? I've had such a moment walking into here tonight where everybody turned around and looked at me like I was the odd one out. And he was like, I now know how people feel when they come into pubs that I'm a regular in, and we all turn and look at them and be like, what are you doing here? So he was like, I'm going to take that away with me. And I thought that was great.
Yeah, that's great. Amazing. Bring back Feel Good Club. This is a great question to all, and I think we're going to get a lot of conversation about it. But yeah, the government, do you think they understand the true social value of grassroots venues?
No. I hate to just, it seems silly to just go, no, they don't. But no, they can't see that. And I think currently the industry can't see that. Like, I have had to deal with some things, especially when I was like back down south, where spaces were where scenes formed. So like musicians I now know and people have seen DJ and things like that, they got together, they cut their teeth together on that thing. And then down the line, when you're trying to book stuff, agents don't like see it that way sometimes, I think. And I'm like, you need to get an act in sometimes who's maybe a bit bigger than everyone who's building the scene, so those kids can perform the support slot for that. They can be like, I supported this DJ or this live artist, and then they move into that thing, and that's like the kind of cycle of it, and that's getting harder and harder to do. And yeah, the thing we'll lose the most is not just the broader community aspect, but also like small community, like everyone who knows these artists that are blowing up in Manchester, like Rainey Miller and Aya, who has now left here, but is from like Leeds, well, not Leeds, Yorkshire, but she'd kill me. I think they all met through the White Hotel, and they all supported each other and pushed each other along, and now there's this thing, and I worry that as more and more spaces close, where do those people find that space to do that? And that's why Crop's good. Like, when I moved here, there was Limbo, right? And that's how I met so many people. And for all the problems that any space will have, because nothing is perfect. If everything was perfect, then no one would do anything. So much comes out of those things, and as we lose them because it's difficult to find those spaces to do a radio station or the people who can do it or all of that thing, then I think it's not just the broad community we'll lose, it's those small clusters that create the next thing.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. And then to echo, it's kind of like coming here from London. I moved here sort of 2.5 years ago, and I knew maybe a handful of people, and it was going to places like White Hotel, like Stage and Radio, and seeing some friends who I knew, DJs who I knew through DJing, and getting introduced, and then being welcomed, and then being introduced to this person, and then building a community of friends that up here that's allowed me to open Ambers and for everything to kind of, for that network to grow in that way. I think, as far as the government goes, we need so much more support from the government, like on every level. I'm talking financially, policy. There's got to be some serious sort of changes in the British government for these venues to continue. And I think it's super, super challenging, and we definitely need way more support, 100%.
Yeah, I just think it must bring in so much money, like, so they must just like want to wake up and just support, but I just don't.
I mean, why don't we look at our European counterparts a little bit more?
They don't care. They don't have that vision, like, for real.
I think they're just trying to kill off the culture.
Yeah, because they can control it much easier at this point. Like, they don't have money to give to culture. It's seriously, I hate to say this, like, honestly, I was here in 90s when it all started, like, and again, let's go back to rave. Why did rave happen? We are selling rave now. That's not what rave is, okay? We have kind of marketed it in a sense. That's not why it happened. It happened from political reasons, okay? So it needs to go back there. I hate to say this, but nothing's going to change until all of us start getting really naughty, and then they're going to try to control.
Get in the streets, rioting.
Bring back illegal raves.
Illegal raves, but pay to enter.
I'm just saying, something seriously needs to happen. It's not going to, they've been lobbying government for years since the pandemic. I mean, MVT, it's amazing. NTIA, like, they're just fucking ignoring them. They're not doing anything. They're not going to do anything.
What I can't wrap my head around is they seem to like to use the culture of the country and align it with music and the music that's come out of the country, especially the 90s. Manchester can't get away from the hacienda and that part of it. And like, it seems to be, it's used used as like a PR thing, but they don't give a fuck. Can I swear?
Yeah, you just did. So yeah. No, that's true. I think as well, like, what was I going to say then? I forgot, it's gone. But yeah, no, that's it. So, like, obviously, like, local councils, you've got local councils, then you've got, like, the government. Is it a job for the local councils, or, like, how does that feed down? I don't know. I'm a bit clueless.
We don't have a devolved system. Like, local councils rely on funding from the government.
Yeah,
so, like, it's a national issue first. Like, it just doesn't matter. Like, the local council can want, and they can find spaces for night czars and stuff like that. But if the funding's not there and the cultural budget is not there, then it just doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Andy Burnham or someone else. It's just like, he can't do anything because there's no money for him.
I mean, he DJs Ramona, so he's about the culture.
I mean, he hasn't done that in a while, and I did
just
find
always
it a
find
bit
it's just
strange
so funny.
because everyone should be able to have fun, but you're supposed to be doing stuff.
Yeah,
Get off the
sort
deck.
out-
Get off the decks.
sort
If
out
I
the-
was mayor,
yeah.
I wouldn't be behind the decks.
Well, he needs to sort out the wonky pavements, because when I step on the pavement and then like my shoes just get wet, it actually frustrates me so much. So, Andy Burnham, if you are listening, that's your next point of call.
I think that probably one of the issues within like government as well, though, is that they don't see the value in grassroots venues and community venues because they probably have never needed them. They probably have never needed to go there, so they don't understand what it actually means to people.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but also then you have to think about the actual system, like the actual governing system. This is not even about grassroots venue. This is about community of their citizens, about well-being, about 20 years ago, probably is easy to say, 15 years ago is when all of their community went to shit, and literally this is what happened since then. Where is the youth centres? Where is the social care for people?
To be fair, Salford's just opened a really good new youth club called the Youth Zone. It's actually amazing. I was buzzing about that. I drove past it and I was like, that's where my council tax is going. I was like, I'm happy about that. Yes. Big up Salford Youth Zone. So speaking of that, so if you could implement one realistic policy change to help grassroots venues, business rates reform, cultural subsidies, planning protection, what would it be?
Yeah, it can't be. I gotta agree. It can't be one. Like there's any one. Like it's kind of like there's this whole idea with UBI that if you do UBI, all the landlords raise the rent by 1,000. So it doesn't really matter that you did UBI because you have to address the other issue before you can't just throw money at it. So we could change the rates, but then what does that mean about the rate of development? And then the sound issues, like so much of it, it's kind of all intrinsically tied, and I don't think there's one thing, but maybe people do have one policy they'd like.
I think it's multifaceted, 100%. There needs to be some sort of financial investment into grassroots music venues. There needs to be breaks in taxes for grassroots music venues, and there needs to be some kind of structure of how zoning is done in regards to development, so that developments can't fly up and affect music venues directly. That's happened. It's been happening for years and years and years. It's been happening, and a flat block of flats gets built, and then the club has to shut down because of the sound. It's ridiculous. The club's been there for how many years beforehand? So I think there's a systematic change that's got to happen there for sure.
So what would actually make a meaningful difference? Like, what kind of support would actually make a difference if you could just wave your magic wand? You'd be like, ooh. Obviously, it's not the one solution, but just give an idea to the people that are listening.
Something that's come back quite recently that I've learned about in the last week is that there's a bit of a Northern Quarter panel being put together, which involves a load of venues essentially having their business rates slightly increased to then go into some sort of budget where we're all on a committee, I believe, with the council and have conversations with them. I don't think our business rates need to be high to do that, but apparently that's the only way it's possible. That's one, and I believe that entire project, which is being run by NTIA, might be wrong, is also working quite hard to push the council to come up with a whole Manchester Music City strategy. But me and Hutch were talking about this at the bar. How can a whole strategy exist when the entire nation's budget doesn't align with it?
Yeah. There is a London, isn't there a team in London that nightlife, I don't know what they are. Do you know?
Night Art and Night
Yeah.
Ambassadors.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, that is definitely positive. Okay, I'm sure there is lots of bad things about that as well, but I do also agree with you 100%. I think kind of having a communication with local councils and on any level, it is good because they need to understand. And once the understanding and the communication is flowing, okay, we don't have a lot of budget, but I don't know, in Leeds we have so many initiatives the council is putting, and it's literally, they are kind of going against the economy and the hospitality in Leeds, and they're just completely ignorant to it. But so yes, all that ambassadors, music ambassadors, nighttime ambassadors, I do think that's helpful.
I just wish these things would happen proactively and not reactionary, because realistically, this whole city music project is coming about because of the night and day dealings and the report that's coming around that. And so why does it take all of that to happen for it to get to that point? It's just covering your own backs, isn't it?
It also feels just like wishful thinking, because it's like you can try and wish this into existence, but it's not going to happen because, as we've just, we're discovering that it's not in the government's eye. Do you know what I mean? They're not caring. They're not even thinking about allocating any budget towards music venues and nighttime industry. I think the panel put together, I think that's led by NTIA and the Mayor of London, with a group of people in London. I know some people on that panel, and they are really trying to push for things like we're discussing now, but it feels like it's just falling on deaf ears, and it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Do you think artists have a responsibility to support the venues even after the careers take off? That's a very important question.
I mean, this is yes.
Yes.
Booking fees.
I mean, yes, there is things to be said of that, but also I think that maybe there's a broader conversation as a whole, but like artists are only individual people, and like, we don't otherwise hold other people with just regular jobs to this kind of like almost morally clean standard. Like, I don't know what anyone else does. I don't know how anyone else makes their money. So I don't want to like not. A lot of the fees are too high, but also like, is that not a symptom of where the economic thing is? Is that that's where the money is? There's the brand events and things like that. That's like, I supposed to be like, oh, you can't get your bag. Like, you can show your support where you can, but then you get a team, right? You get management, you get agents. Yeah. They've got to be paid. So then that's where the fee goes up. It's definitely overinflated. It's definitely in a bubble right now, but I think it's really easy to just point at artists. You need to do better, but like,
I think
the whole industry needs to be rethought. Personally, but again, that's me, just one person saying that. I don't know what that rethink is. Yeah. Even we could all put our brains together and we could come up with maybe a 16th of what that would need to be, but it would need a lot more people in communication and working together, I think.
Yeah.
If people had more money to buy more expensive tickets because the economy was better, then an artist fee would not have to be reduced.
Yeah. I think in terms of like, if they're playing like a smaller venue, like, but they're like, oh no, you can't afford us, do you think they should like maybe, it depends, I guess, what the connection to that city is, I guess. I mean, when I booked, so when I booked somebody for Gloss, a big DJ, they reduced the fee to play for our event and stuff like that. I think that was really cute because they were like, yeah, totally, like we stand for what your event is promoting, etc. And I think that's good, but obviously I'm not putting all the earnings on ice. It was just,
No, but you do need to remember as an artist where you came from. And I do want to say this. In Old Red, so many of them came for literally fuck all, next to nothing, because they wanted to honor to what we were actually doing. They didn't have to, but it was lovely. So yes, I think you can't rely on that. I agree. However, many of them do.
Yeah. I think that is important in it because like it's obviously.
Yeah, I will say when people get really big, they do. But I think the difficult point is when you're trying to get to that point. Like, so you can take a reduced fee because you know you got 1 or 2 gigs next weekend and the weekend after that. You can't take a reduced fee if you don't know when the next gig coming. And I think some of the reaction with fees as well is a post-COVID thing. Like, that was probably incredibly scary. There's like, what's the furlough if you're an independent artist? I don't know, like very little. So that's probably incredibly scary. And I don't think we're going to have another lockdown, like even though regardless of what's going on with COVID, I think that then it needs to be readjusted. But like, it's also like, once it's gone that far, how do you get it back? Like, once you've opened the box, how do you close it, kind of thing?
Yeah, I think how do venues and promoters work together? Is there a shift towards collaboration over competition, or does it feel like venues are just absorbing more risk?
I think there's a bit of both. Yeah, definitely. I feel like as venues take on a lot of risk, but there is a sort of element of having a relationship with artists and with the promoters and with the agents and stuff like that. So kind of work out something that works for everyone in a way, in financially. So like we have like a maximum fee that we pay artists, and as bit whoever they are, we don't go above that fee, and that allows us, because we're not using their name, because our lineups are unannounced, we're not using their name to sell the tickets, and that allows us to have them slightly reduced fee so that we can have affordable tickets, because our tickets start really cheap. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's a bit of give and take, I guess.
Yeah, I think from there we will go on a break, and then we'll reconvene. I can't even speak. Reconvene. So it is 8 o'clock now. So we'll come back at like 20 past. Don't be late. 20 past. 10 past. 15 minutes past. 15 minutes past. Quarter past. I think he's there now. Hi everybody. Welcome back. Hope you had a good break. I was just saying then, think of some questions to ask the panelists to get thinking around in your mind, because we've got a little bit more of the panel to do, and then we'll open up the floor for you to ask questions. So, having a forward think. So, I think, Kira, this one will be for you, really. You built a venue on purpose, storytelling, and emotional connection. Do you think grassroots venues today need to become more multidimensional to survive?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's There we go. Oh, that's a lot louder, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I think that's what people want, right? In a world of social media and everything being online, there is something so refreshing about having venues where connection and community is at the front and center of it. I mean, a lot of the people that used to come to Feel Good Club, a lot of the time they'd come on their own to events, and a lot of them would turn around and say to us, "Oh, I've never done this before," or they'd message us before and be like, "Is it okay for me to come on my own?" And I think having spaces like that where you know that you can go and be welcomed or meet like-minded people is really, really important for a lot of people. And loneliness is we're in like a loneliness epidemic at the moment. You can have everything like community at your fingertips, but without that like actual real human connection, then
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I'll always shout out Feel Good Club. I think I've said it about 10 times today, but yeah. So, like, what's everyone's thoughts on? I personally hate these things. So basically, like, we don't need to be raving not raving. We don't need to be going out in a car garage. Do you know what I mean? Like, I really hate this whole like brands that like book these like big massive DJs and then like have like these free events, because I think that's like kind of like killing the clubs in a way. Like, I think you should just have them use the club spaces, like making club spaces in like, say, like just random spots. I think like there was these events that were being held in like this working men's club by like these like proper like posh toffees who like have never actually gone to a working men's club in their life, but they were just using that space, and I just thought it was just so not genuine. Like, I feel like, what's everyone's opinions on that?
I mean, there's brands have been doing this for a long, long time now, and especially as social media has become more and more present, brands have needed to attach themselves to club culture, to music culture, to underground culture specifically, to appear, to kind of slot themselves in that space. And the way they've done that is with cash. These brands will sort of pay sort of certain venues or spaces or promoters or whatever communities to basically put on an event that's just heavily branded, and then and for a lot of these venues and a lot of these parties, promoters, whatever, they need money to survive. So it's kind of like it's a double-edged sword, but their brands have been doing that for a long time to make themselves seem sort of culturally more cool in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think, how do we rebuild sustainable pipelines for new artists? Like, what do promoters and venues need to do? Yeah, I think that would be for anyone on the panel.
Sorry, can you say that again?
So, how do we rebuild sustainable pipelines for new artists? So, yeah, what do promoters and venues need to do?
Well, I don't think this is, of course, it's about promoters and venues, but again, this is a much higher question. So venues cannot actually survive. Right now, you're working in a kind of model that is not sustainable. So unless there is actually help from above for venues, there will be no venues in 10 years. And this is really scary. So, but for the venues that they are here, they absolutely 100% need to be offering a kind of entry level for the new artists, the residencies, the whatever, some kind of a help with promotion. But it is very hard for the venues because all the cost is always attached to the venues. So, and in today's world, right now, all the overheads, it's just not profitable.
Just to expand on that, I think in this venue we rely a lot on external promoters just because of the level of risk associated with internal programming. I think that means that you can't nurture the pipeline you want to nurture because essentially you're trying to reduce the chances of you messing it all up, and that's sad. That's sad because we all want to do something and we can't.
Yeah, I mean, when we first launched, we tried an initiative on a Sunday, which was like, we put a call out for unknown DJs, up and coming DJs, to submit us a mix, and we'll go through these mixes. And we got hundreds and hundreds of people from all over the city, all over the country, and it was fantastic. So we're like, right, we'll program some of these artists on a sort of Sunday evening, Sunday afternoon. We adjusted the times, and like, it's concept wise great, but no one came. So it's like, okay, great, everyone's loving it online and thinks it's a great initiative, but when it actually came down to supporting it and, you know, showing up, no one showed up. It was like 50 people showed up, then 20 people showed up, and then it was 10, and it was just like, we have to open the doors. It costs us X amount of money to open the doors, to staff the bar, to stock the bar, you know, and also pay these people that are coming to play. And it was really tricky and really quite sad. So like, ways to, pipelines to bring these new artists through. It's more and more tricky trying to figure out ideas. More often than not, it's like finding a local DJ for a support slot and things like that, and giving people that way, growing people that way. But yeah, it's increasingly difficult, I think.
Yeah, it's hard to get people down without a name. So, what can we do to support it? We can put things on, but what could audiences do to support it? Young Lean's playing tonight, and that's sold out. My Bloody Valentine played on Monday, and that's sold out. And I know those are huge acts, but they've also been around for ages. Put something new on, it's really hard to get people to go to. It's really hard to get them to come down to, and they want a name. So then that is the thing. You have to, putting a name on and then putting stuff alongside to support it. Because when I came up, I did a lot of the smaller community thing and kept the costs really low, and venues were a lot cheaper then, and the sound was much worse. But you could kind of slowly build it. You could kind of get a community together. That's so much harder now because you kind of you will get that, but you still need something that's pulling the new people in, that isn't just like, oh, it's a good party. Because every party is theoretically a good party. So, what is it that's going to make this party special? And that's why you kind of need a headliner. And then you go like, no, you know what? We want to put on all these new DJs, all these great DJs that we think are really good. And that doesn't work. And so we found the space in the White Hotel best for that to be New Year's Eve. Everyone goes out New Year's Eve every single year. Like, people go out in the shutter shades still, and the LED ones as well. And you never see those people at the White Hotel, but they're there that night because everyone goes out on New Year's Eve. So that's when you program some stuff that would be a lot more difficult because everyone's going to go out, and the bank holidays and things like that. And then, yeah, it's giving out to external promoters and trying to nurture the ones who do a good thing that you like. And you can give advice to promoters, but sometimes they won't take it. They have their own specific vision, and that might not fit for your club. But also, if they're bringing people in, then can you say no to it? And yeah, building a community around a venue is a lot harder because even though you're paying an individual promoter, an individual club night, the money, you feel like you're connected to them. A venue feels like a business. It feels like a place you go, a place you spend money, so it feels a bit different, I think. But yeah, I do think part of it should fall to the audience as well as us.
I feel like Rich, you was itching to say something.
Well, I was, but then old red shots, so who am I to say anything? But like,
No, say it.
our residencies were like the busiest, but we took a risk. So we had Fridays, which were free before midnight, £5 afterwards. And they were all residencies. And they were busy because people really wanted to support it. And if you didn't have any money, you come in before midnight. So they were busy the earliest of all the things. And if you had a bit of spare cash, you'd go in, £5 in, it's still okay. And so that was a kind of level. If it was on Thursday, it wouldn't have worked out. I mean, it did in 2017, 18, 19, but like in this world, it didn't. But then it did, as I say. So that was actually the safest programming we ever did. But everything else was kind of far more risky and blah, 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 and then all the other costs. But yeah, so I would urge you all that if you really put your mind into it, like the love and the actual community that grows around it is real fast. But not on Sunday, on like Saturday, Or do it earlier. Do it like, I don't know, 8 till 12 or 8 till 11, and then you still kind of have, look, I'm not trying to be condescending, but I'm so passionate about this because all these people who actually don't have any other opportunity or going anywhere, because nobody's going to book them and they're not going to cut their teeth anywhere else. Well, it's hard.
I think that just comes down to venues just being a bit scared to take that risk initially, yeah.
Yeah, I think you can't have a forward-thinking culture and music scene when the economy doesn't back up for being forward-thinking. I think we all want to, but it's unrealistic. I think what you were suggesting is an amazing idea, and it's something that a lot of people would love to do. But then it relies on there being, let's say, some sort of buffer, some sort of financial buffer, where if it did go wrong, we'd be all right. But it's the kind of thing that...
No, I understand that. I totally get it. But this is what I was trying to say before. Like, so we are put in this position when there is a kind of, you can't win.
Yeah,
You're
that's
just
exactly
fucked,
right.
whatever,
Yes.
one way or another, it's just which way they're going to get you. So, but then again, let's not forget why we are all doing this or have been doing it is because it is for the scene. It is for the community. Because that really, unfortunately, right now, you ain't going to make money out of it one way or another. 0.049% profit at 100% capacity. I mean, it's just fucking taking the piss, really.
Yeah, and I think as well a lot of factors go into that, don't you? Like people are drinking less, like being a bit more like health conscious.
But that's also good. This is what we're saying. Why is he a...
Yeah, but then for the bars, that's you mentioned earlier the whole like.
It's almost it's almost like the priorities shifted from sustaining the music scene that I fell in love with to looking after the people who we need to make sure continue to have jobs, and that's sad. Yeah, I've said that word a few times, but
I think Kira obviously Feel Good Club. You obviously had you like Mischief Cabaret and stuff like that. Were they like obviously Bo, who is amazing. We love Bo. Shout out to Bo.
Incredible, best person.
Yeah, I love her so much. Obviously, did she take a lot of risks with that at first? Were you kind of like, oh, I don't know, or because they were really successful? I think lots of events that happened at Feel Good Club. I think what that I do was just such. I think again it comes down to that maybe because you had a lot of queer clientele. It was a safe space. Maybe that helped with that community building aspect of it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think for us, we wanted to try and give as many opportunities as we could for new nights or new musicians or acts or artists to try out their events in the venue. And some of them worked really well. Mischief sold out every single time. But then some of them didn't, and you'd end up taking a loss. But then because we were purpose-driven, we kept going with it probably longer than what we should have, because we didn't just want to cut it. But it's a huge risk. And I think one of the things that we did do, and it kind of goes back to that conversation of like big brands try it, or big businesses that want to be brands, and the only way they become brands is by connecting with community, is trying to use them to your advantage. So we used to get some sponsors. We actually, out of kind of the nights that we used to do in there, because our license was only till 11, we wanted to put on a later night event. So we created an event called Make Me Feel. And that was kind of about the same thing as the club: community, connection, queer joy, being yourself and being able to be yourself, into kind of a late night music event. And we couldn't take the risk on it financially, but we did lean on some of the music venues. The AO Arena, they gave us the money to put on the whole night. We didn't make anything out of it. We made a loss because of the time that we spent on it, but it meant that we were able to put on nights like that for people without taking a huge financial risk. So there are ways, but they're far and few between, and you kind of have to try and use these brands to your advantage.
Yeah, I just want to say on that, I've been very lucky to not have to do much branded stuff, and it's not the thing I want to do, but sorry, I think I'm pointing at a speaker or something. I remember a panel talk from Unsound 2016, I think it was, where is it? No, never mind. The whole panel gets asked, should you take corporate sponsorship? And basically everyone is like, no, you should not take corporate sponsorship. And Bad Sister's there, and they're just like, no, you can't say that. I'm from Sao Paulo. There's no money there. If I take Budweiser money, I can put on all my friends, get them all paid, throw a huge party that I could never throw. So it's really easy to be in this country and say that, where it is really hard, but there is some amount of it working, even if it is that really thin margin, and to just say all branding is bad, but maybe there is a way to make it work. And also understanding what you're doing, that in that moment, that's not the most grassroots thing. But then you do one dance with the devil to do two dances that you actually want to do. And that's the way I look at it sometimes. So.
Yeah, great. Well, we're actually coming to the end now. So I just want to go down the panel and just say, you can all just say one thing you want people to understand about the fight for grassroots venues and one action that they can take tomorrow to help. And also you can kind of just say what you're doing now as well and promote whatever you want. Come to the venues. I don't know what side you want to start on, any side.
I think
I'm going to do a Q&A after, don't worry.
I'd just say think of and I know it is hard for everybody, everybody's skin, but think of your favorite venues, the ones that you went to maybe years ago and then haven't been for ages, and just go to them and try and remember them. And I think that's the only thing. I think sometimes you can go somewhere when it first opens and love it, and then be like, oh, they're always busy, it's fine. But actually, probably behind the scenes, they really are struggling. So I think, it's hard, but just try and put your support in the places that you really want to still be here, because I think we're at a real risk at the moment of not having those long-term venues. We keep seeing places open, close, and everything switching, and there's not going to be any real history in the city if we don't support the ones that we love.
I kind of want to give 3 actions. Interact with social media of places that you like, promoters that you like. It helps push their brands. Click interested on RA. Even if you may actually not go, that helps those people. And buy early bird tickets. If you're oh, it's costing, yes, but a lot of places will do those £5 tickets at first, and then if you can't make it, you can put it on the resale and it will usually go. But also you can look at it that if you really do love a place or a specific promoter, that even if you can't make it, you've paid £5 to support the thing you love. So that's, you can look at economic action as not just the interaction of I get the ticket, but also I love this thing, and even though I can't make it, I'll buy the cheap ticket, so it's getting some money in it.
I think we really need to point fingers at the people who can actually make a change, and that's the government, that's the councils, and that's those people there. There's some stuff coming out in the media which I've not seen yet. I think it was today. So just keep an eye out on what's going on there. and then any actions that are related to these kind of things, try to get involved, try to champion it. That's it really. I think the biggest
How
people who can make change is them.
Ooh, I'm excited to see what it is.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just echoing similar sentiments here. It's just like call those responsible that can make change. Those people in committees and the people that can change policy. Let's shout about it a bit more. This is a thing. Like it's not a joke that in sort of 10 years time, like there could actually be no music venues. Like if you look it up, like that's true. Like it's actually mental to even think that it's actually a possibility, and it is if things carry on the way they are. And I think, secondly, echoing what Rebecca said, is like just buying tickets, rally the troops. Do you know what I mean? Let's get everyone together. Let's go out. Let's go raving again. I feel like, in a sense, it's like it's pockets of it, but I think in general, there's lot people are going out less, and I think if you want these venues to last and to survive and to keep putting on the music that you love, you've got to go. Do you know what I mean? And I know that a lot of people do still go out, but a lot less people are going out to the clubs and to see the DJs that they like, to discover DJs that they don't know. So yeah, just buy a ticket for wherever you want to go. Just do it. Rally the troops, man.
Yes, same. Hold people responsible for this accountable. Be angry. It's serious, for real. And then buy a ticket when you can.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you, everyone. Let's go to the audience. Does anybody have any questions? Connor's told me to bring the mic out to you, but it won't stretch that far. Or I can just repeat your question, whichever works. Come to me.
So I've heard old rave culture like mythologized a lot. People talk about bring back the old raves, the free parties and stuff. Do you think with all these venues closing, with all these troubles in those venues, that might come back? And how do you see us supporting free parties as a continuation of culture?
We're already seeing these parties happen. They are still happening happening a bit more in sort of parts of the country where there aren't very many clubs. In sort of the countryside. Leeds. Yeah. Leeds. Free parties are happening, and I think it's great. I think they're really, really, it's a great start for people to get involved in. It's to discover a community of people, like-minded people. It's kind of anti-establishment behaviour, which I'm kind of all there for. But yeah, I think if we will tend to see, if the music venues do as many are closing as as the trajectory says and predicts, then of course we will see more. As a people, as a culture, we go against the grain. We react politically to what's happening politically. Sorry. So I think and that's a reflection in our music and in what we do. So I think it will help for sure, and I'm all up for it.
I hate to say this because I wasn't but I was there when the first raves were there, and it was a political movement. It is a political movement, and the only reason why we had a kind of healthy grassroots venue scenario to begin with was because of those raves, because the only way they could control it was by supporting grassroots venues. So they will do again, but it needs to get much worse before it gets better, unfortunately.
Do you think that people have the same spirit to do that?
No, and this is social media that we didn't address today at all, and I think this is a completely different kind of scenario and a different discussion. It's a double-edged sword, and because of social media, I don't think there is that kind of camaraderie, but I think it's gone so far that something will happen regardless. Look, as you said, there is this happening in Leeds because there is no other option. So.
Why do you think social media? You can touch on it. We've got time. Why do you think social media is? Why do you think social media?
Got another 2 hours.
No.
Made shaking it.
Well, look, again, I'm not against social media, and it has so many great kind of aspects to it, but at the same time, come on, let's not be fools. Like, since social media in a recent, let's say, a decade, the amount of anxiety, social anxiety and all of that, it is due to social media, apart from all the other shit that we are facing in this world and the way they're poisoning us and blah, 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 with everything. But saying that, yeah, social media is a dangerous tool, and we are literally doing an experiment. So... But as I say, this is a much deeper conversation, and we're talking about music, and I just, somewhere in this conversation, wanted to say it's about the exchange, it's about the communication. It is about, like, ultimately, we're talking about raves, we're talking about parties, we're talking about grassroots venues, we're talking about musicians, DJs, promoters. It really is about an exchange of communication with that musician, artist, or whoever behind the decks, with the audience. It is very hard to do that, or practically impossible over social media. So we have TikTok DJs and blah, 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 which I don't really want to get into right now. But yes, this is the danger.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Does anybody else have any comments on that?
I just think on the illegal rave thing, the material conditions that we exist under are completely different. So there were a lot more abandoned spaces that don't have security teams around them. So, like, it's hard to find a space. And then, this is going to sound a bit crazy, but how do you really do an illegal gathering if everyone's carrying a GPS device with them? As soon as there's like a concentration of mobile phones, the cops know. And that's like, so you can't do the things that you used to do. You can go as far out as you want.
You just take risks.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
cops
you take
were there before. You would just go, okay.
Yeah, but they can sort of come, they come once they get a complaint in the past. Now they're coming like without any warning, right? They can just see the convergence of like signals and... Yeah, just like linked to a cell tower, or like, you know, because of the social media thing, people post a lot. They just act that they're like, I am at this amazing illegal thing. I hope no police turn up, and then
leave your phone at home if you're going to a legal rave. That's the key.
But that's kind of dangerous.
I also think like that's a physical form of activism and protesting, whereas now you can literally go on your phone, press share on something on a post, and that's it. Job done.
Yeah.
And I think that holds us back a lot from getting the things we want.
Yeah, definitely. Does anybody else have a question? Hi, Misty. Yeah. You're a runner.
Hello, everyone. Amazing talk today. Just wanted to say, so on social media, you see these really big kind of brands and venues and promoters that are putting on amazing nights, and it seems like everything's going really well. And then you also hear that they're in a crisis themselves because even though they're selling out, they can't afford the overheads essentially. So what is a business model that you have seen that has worked or does work? Is there any?
I think I agree with you. You can have as many followers as you want online. It doesn't convert into sales or customers. A model that has fucking smashed it is, and this isn't to do with music, but the guy down the road, Get Baked, absolutely smashed it. He's smashed his following, and his model, he doesn't have to pay VAT because it's not sitting down, it's all cold. I went to a talk that he did actually, and they have done their research into what you can get away with on VAT. So there's certain like sprinkles on a cookie that you'd have to pay VAT for if you were selling it. So they don't use those sprinkles. They found another place to get the sprinkles from. Like, I actually think now people opening venues are going to have to do their research into everything because the government aren't going to change. We can point our finger at them all we want, I think, but I just don't think they're going to change. So I think people opening venues are just going to have to get really, really smart with how they do it.
Anybody else on that question?
I'm not sure of a business model that is,
I mean,
especially
like,
in our community, that's
Tesco,
like flourishing.
I haven't seen a successful club business model. Partisan tried the membership thing, and that's really hard to do because, you know, people drop off their dues because they're not going to that thing because it's not putting on the programming that they want. And like, you can do the thing where people like they had annual general meetings, but how would you actually do it like a thing where everyone gets one night that they is the thing they want? So like it's about compromise and things like that, but that didn't work. God Level struggled with its version of that. Yeah, it's all really difficult. And as well, at the same time, is occasionally you'll have panel talks like this, and occasionally something will close and people will be very honest. But while you're doing it, you got to smile, you got to dance, and you got to say, this is great. Or in the case of the White Hotel, say nothing at all. But yeah, the government doesn't really seem to care. Maybe a major change in government could bring that, but like, that would need major change in economics that could even make it so you could shift the budget towards culture. And I don't know, I read stuff, but I'm not actually a politician. I'm not actually an economic. Yeah. The person who does economics. So I can't really answer, like, I don't know if any of us could, but I haven't seen it so far. And I think at least those of us on this side of it, because your thing is slightly different, feel that the change really does need to start at the top and really does need to be a governmental change. Because, yeah, I don't know how you do the club that avoids the VAT, because you got to sell the drink.
Can't.
Yeah, you got to pay the ticket VAT. Like, maybe, yeah, you know, you can't. Well, yeah, and then very grassroots. And yeah, you can't even really do the cash on the door because it's actually getting hard to find places to pay cash in. Like, there's like post offices are closing down, so there's no way to pay cash in. Like so even if you got cash, you're just floating around the club.
That's true. Cash is king.
No, it's not.
Oh no, it's not. But I
The
love it
king
when you go
is
into
dead.
I love it when you go into like a takeaway and they're like, cash is king. You get 10% off if you pay cash. I'm like, what? Is anybody else have any questions? Hi. You're right.
So one of the things you talked about is that the big names bring in the people, and a lot of people nowadays will go to a venue if there's a big name on the lineup. So maybe there's a part to play for those big names to remember where they started from and think about the fees that they're charging. So I have seen instances where a promoter looks really successful, they've got loads of big names on the lineup, the night is fantastic, it's almost sold out or sold out all the time, and then they're saying, oh my god, we're broke because the fees are so expensive for those huge artists as compared to the up and coming artists who are getting paid basically nothing or even playing for free. Is there a part to play for them and for people to look back who are really at the top of the kind of artist scene and go, I need to humble myself and support those grassroots venues before they all close down?
I think that's going back to what Rebecca said earlier. We can't always hold like every artist accountable for this kind of thing. But I think if, you know, artists that are relatively big, not like, you know, not talking super top level DJs, but who just won't even entertain that idea. A lot of DJs do engage with the community. They will look at the ticket price that you're charging. They will look at the capacity of the venue, and they will, like, in a lot of circumstances, make a reduction in their fee in order to play in that venue. You know, a lot of artists do that. A lot don't, but a lot do. So I think, yeah, I guess it's like, again, can come down to your relationship with the agent, with the artist, and kind of, you know, if they believe in your story and what you're trying to do and build your community and actually do something, you know, grassroots, then, yeah, a lot of artists do work with you.
But I think that solution, I guess, is, again, pointing fingers at each other. Like, it's like, you sort out the problem, you're the artist. And then there's like, no, you're the venue, you sort out the problem, put your drinks up. And then it's like, do you know what I mean? Everyone's pointing fingers at each other when, in reality, it's the economy. It's the people don't have the money. It's not gone up with their cost of living to the point where they can spend money on a ticket that's more expensive. So then that artist can get paid and everyone else on the lineup can get paid. It's fucked. It's
true. It's above. Like, if people
sure.
don't have the money to pay for a ticket, then it's the ticket that we need to sell. That's not artist's fault. It's not the venue's fault. It's not the promoter's fault. It's the government's fault.
Yeah, and also there are obviously with these artists that are involved, it's not their fault, but there are also their agent that takes a fee and their management that takes a fee. So more often than not, that agent gets 20%, then management gets 20% as well. So they're walking away with only 60% of the artist fee that you are paying. Do you know what I mean? So you can't put it all on them.
Also, if you're gigging on a Friday and a Saturday every single week, and there's enough demand for you to play every single Friday and Saturday, I can't see a lot of situations, unless someone's really, really sound, where they're going to turn down the fee that they normally get.
Yeah, we expect artists to be like, you know, I think you maybe do owe a little bit to venues that you come up in, but like we expect artists to be so perfect, and then everyone else has jobs and they get pay rises, and you know, the kind of the Seinfeld bit of I can't come to your work and heckle you. Everyone's like artists should be taking less, but I don't go up to people and be like, you should take less in your job. You should donate more. You should, like, we don't talk like that about anything else, right? Yeah, like, so, you know, I think it is, yeah, like Wakil says, it's just pointing, and like, because we don't want to talk about the big thing, which is that it's the government, which means getting involved in political action, which would sometimes mean not going to the venue, because culture happens downstream from politics. Like, it can reflect it, but we can't actually fight the government by going to the club. We can only fight the government by protesting and voting and getting involved. And, you know, looks like there might be something good in the Greens, so like it feels like you can vote again, I guess. Like, you know, the Labour has felt like an absolute failure for me personally as a trans person, and also on an economic level. So, you know, I don't know if Zach Polanski would go put a bunch of money into it, but it seems like a better alternative to what we have now. And I really don't think Reform are going to support culture. Well, not this kind anyway.
Well, yeah, they're just too busy sticking up flags on lampposts. What does political action look like, though? Like, what does it look like? Do we need to be in the streets protesting? Like, what? Like,
well, you can just write to your MP. You know, you should just keep complaining. That's number one. If something really bothers you.
Yeah, my MP's.
But then we do also need to get on the streets. We do, because
I think also like there's a thing in like Marxism called struggle and song, which is, I think a lot of what I see now is some people wanting to feel like going to the club and going to see the right lineup is the political action, and it's not. Struggle happens on the streets. Song, which is what the club is and should be a fun thing, is the thing to hold in your heart while you fight. Like, it's the thing that you're supposed to hold on to. You're supposed to be in that protest and be like, I'm doing this, so every moment feels like when I feel good on the dance floor. Like, it shouldn't be a bad thing that you have fun. And I think we're reaching that point right now because it feels like we can't do anything else. So, yeah.
I do feel like going out is kind of like, I think, was it Sherelle who said that going out is like a luxury now? Like, it just all starts.
Always has been.
Yeah.
Like my mum is 71. When she left home at 16, she worked 3 jobs at the same time. Like, she grew up through the 70s and did no drugs. And she's like, I was around people who did it, but I worked 3 jobs, one of which was a nurse. When do I have 12 hours to take acid? Like, so actually being able to not do things is a privilege. Like, being able to party is a privilege.
Yeah, that is so true. Does anybody else have any questions? Yeah, do you want to come up? Yeah, shout.
What advice would you give to someone looking for
Don't.
So for the mic, what advice would you give someone that's wanting to start a grassroots venue? That's just for the recording, for the mic.
Yeah, I mean, don't. I haven't started a grassroots venue, but I've seen the other side, and right now feels like a really, really bad time to try and do that. So maybe it's, if that is the thing you want and you have some money towards it, maybe instead it's right now is the time to support venues that are already there by doing a promotion that's like maybe giving back, and then you're building that brand, and then by the time it's like, you know, maybe it is a better time to launch a club, you're launching a club off the back of that, and that's like a thing to do. But I think right now would be a really risky time to fully launch a venue.
I think you can get an idea rolling with a bit of a proof of concept before you go guns blazing with it. And you can try out a party in a random place and see if that party's got legs. You can try and see if like a brand before it's even launched has got legs. These days you put a new idea on Instagram and in your pre-launch That's when you're getting your most growth. I'm sure you've experienced that with Crop. I'm sure you've experienced that with Ambers. It's like, I don't think you have to go completely all in to see if what you want to do is going to have the legs. And I think managing your risk is really important, because if you do it that way, that's probably a lot better.
Apply for funding as well.
Mm. I
Work
agree.
on your funding application.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I'd also say potentially look at existing venues that you can partner with, or empty spaces where landlords are still paying rates on it even though it's empty, and ask them to, if you can take it over for a weekend or for a couple of months and do a partnership that way. Is that happening in Stretford Mall, where they're giving them like the old mall space to until it's basically sorted or demolished or let or whatever the plan is. So I would do that, because I think there's the financial struggle, there's just the way that everything is right now in hospitality and venues, but it's also a massive shock to the system. You can work in bars, restaurants, clubs, but when you then take one on to own and all of that is your responsibility, it is a massive shock to the system. So I think also prove to yourself that that you want to do it because it's a fucking labour of love.
Yeah, I mean, if your goal is to do something grassroots, and that, you know, that's great. But if you don't expect to make any money out of it, like, you know, as a director of a club, and all of my other business partners, we are not making any money. We're not getting paid. Fact, like none of us. So we are just keeping the club rolling, and that's it. That's it.
Got a question. Hi guys. Yeah. So I love the emotion and how angry and pissed off and fucking annoyed and all that stuff, because it's important, like, to reflect that as venue owners. Like, you've got souls as well. With like movements and people writing, I'm a songwriter at my heart. I do a lot of other things, but I'm a songwriter at my heart. And I'm seeing stuff happen around raves and sound system culture. What advice would you give to movements that are adjacent to someone like me, where they're always at risk of being co-opted by brands, maybe by venue owners? What advice would you give to them as they're rising? Because I'm seeing it. I've seen sound system culture from my uncles live forever. It doesn't really matter what's going on financially.
Just use it to your advantage. Research those brands. Use it to your advantage. There is no shame in taking something, but just research it and make sure that you're covered and that what you are supporting, if you're getting the money, is actually in line to what you're pushing.
Yeah, I think if you are in a movement and you want to start getting involved with the corporate thing, I think a good thing would be to speak to people you know who are already doing anything around that, and have them help you navigate it, like with the contracts and things like that. And yeah, research brands. There's a bunch of brands that it's fine to take money off. There's a bunch of brands that it's not okay to take money off, because like it will not look good for you, or if you look at their history, they have co-opted that thing and they have taken control of it. And also at any point, your group, a name's just a name, right? Just kill it. If it feels like it's lost control for you, take the people that you're working with and you feel like just be like, we're not doing that anymore. Make a new name, make a new thing. Tell everyone it is that thing, but just like, yeah, the names are just names. Like movements, right? Cultural things. You can't kill them. You can kill a man, but you can't kill a movement, kind of thing.
Did you have any concerns about the audience that the corporate kind of affiliations would bring you, or was it just taking money from them?
To be honest, my no's strong. Like, my no's sort of, let's get on the phone and let me suss out this person. Like, I'm pretty good at that. And if it's not that, I don't really want to talk about it anyway. But it's usually what happens is, in the orbit, they approach people around myself or whoever, an elder, whoever you want to call it, and whatever culture it is, and then suddenly you've got all these weeds in your circle. So like, you can have a no, but cash is still king, whether it's a card or whatever it is. So it's just that it's like we have to communicate constantly with other people in the space to like strengthen their no, which is hard. For obvious reasons.
I guess it's like, it's what do you want out of it, and then and how can you make that work for you? You know, how can you kind of, if there's a certain brand that are going to say, okay, we want to partner with you, is keep that communication constant and make sure that your values align, and make sure that they're not going to try and dilute what you're doing, or they're not kind of profiting off what you're doing. You know, they may, in a way, culturally sort of, you know, you may strengthen their position within your community, which is ultimately their aim, right? But I guess if you're getting something out of it, just make sure you leverage the brand as much as possible so that they're not completely rinsing you. That's it.
Any more? No? Brilliant. Oh.
We spoke earlier briefly about that task force in London. I think that's what they call it, a task force or something. Do you think there would be any benefit or advantage of something like that existing in Manchester? Like, it's great, we're all sat in this room and we're having these conversations, right? And often the answer is like, the government is the issue, and da-da-da. So, but how do these messages, how do these conversations bridge that gap between the grassroots and the people that are at the top making decisions? Like, is it via something like a task force, or someone better than Sacha Lord as the night czar? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do we get the message to the right people, you know?
Not Sacha Lord.
I mean, I think all of these, I think we should have a sort of maybe a task force in every city where they're to give, you know, a voice to our culture that can then speak to the higher ups, to then speak to the higher ups, to get something, you know, because, you know, we need channels, and it does also go back to writing to your MP, but, you know, the MP can help set up these task forces and committees, and maybe that's a way. I mean, I don't have the answer, but I think could be nothing but a benefit. But it's just, again, you know, like we said earlier, they're not being listened to. They're just being ignored.
The closest thing we have to that at the moment is Music Venue Trust and GMCA. GMCA, I don't think really, like, I think they just get ignored about a lot of things, if I'm honest. I think you mentioned that earlier. Music Venue Trust seem to be doing great things, but they can't be the only ones trying to do all this.
But they would advise, though, you know, NTIA is doing it, but I would also kind of lift a hand for Music Venue Trust. There is a kind of local coordinators for Music Venue Trust, which there already are in place, and they're genuinely nice people, hardworking people. So I think that would be a start, kind of reaching out to them and forming your own groups.
Music Venue Trust, who we're raising funds for. Links in, amazing.
To be honest, you could reach out to them and ask what can I as an individual do to help this, and I think that would be a great place to start.
Find your northern coordinator for Manchester from Music Venue Trust, and that's a good conversation to be had regardless of the outcome.
I think in the future it'd be nice to see some things that aren't so reactive. Like a task force is like, there's a problem, right? And maybe, because you mentioned stuff being so reactive, I think it would be nice to see that the task force is also like planning ahead and not just like, how do we deal with now, which we obviously do need to do, but then like, what are we doing to prepare for the future? And that hopefully then things that come in aren't just there to patch the cracks, but like start building the things that stop the cracks from appearing, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So for the recording, is it all bad news? What's good that is happening now? Basically.
Well, this is good. Needs to be loads more of this, and we all need to be loads more louder.
Yeah, there's loads of good stuff going on. Some of the best nights I've been to have like not made it over the line. They've been packed and everything, and they've been really good. Like sometimes it's not like, you know, we're talking about this like sustainability thing. It's often not a reflection on the quality of anything. Like there's really good events to go to. There's a pessimism of the intellect and an optimism of the will. Like I look at things with my mind and I'm like, oh God,
this is all falling apart. But then I'm in that space, and especially as a promoter, some kid comes up to me and says, this is the best night I've ever been to. Then I'm like, so good things are happening. So it's like, what's the scope of good things? Like, you know, is there any good things happening on an economic level? Doesn't really look like it. You know, we're only a small sample size, but like there's good nights. We're all putting on good nights. We're all doing things that we're proud of. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, I think that ends the panel today. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, all the panelists as well. Thank you to Stage and Radio and Crop as well for giving us a space. And yeah, get home safe, everybody. Bye.